Most everybody uses it. We import from China 400 million pounds of it every year. And you know, the Seafood Watch is an organization that tells you the best choices or the bad choices, have declared the Chinese tilapia to be one fish that you need to avoid. But it's cheap.
Why should you avoid it?
Because it is farm-fished in China. Much of it is farm-fished in China. Of course, it's also farm-fished here in America. But up there, environmentally, everybody's scared. There are muddy waters in which this fish is being raised, and that's why they have a concern about it. Though Walmart buys 100 million pounds of it every year to sell it in this country. Costco does not use Chinese tilapia. But why would you want to eat tilapia? Because it does not have the omega-3 for which you really eat the fish.
Well, you know, fish is a staple diet for a lot of people, and farm fishing is not a new concept. We do it with a lot of different kinds of fish. We do it with trout, with salmon, but the point you're making really has more to do with the fact that there's no specific regulation overseas to make sure that your fish is meeting the standards that you might force it to meet here back home. So
it's okay as long as they put it out there, this is from China. That's all we are looking for. But they don't say that. That is the most important thing. I think we should always know what is made where.
Why are we buying all this fish from China? We're buying it because it's cheap. Our economic condition has deteriorated to the point where we are looking for the bargains. The bargains are coming from China. Therefore, we don't worry about labeling. We're not pushing that particular need to the forefront, and we're just simply consuming. As long as that trend continues, we might be putting ourselves at risk in ways we don't even anticipate.
That's why I like Secretary Geithner when he went to Korea in a G20 meeting, and he said, no country should export more than 4% of their GDP. I really like that. That will put caboose on so much of the Chinese goods and will give some encouragement to the Americans to go out and start building things. We don't have to just import it because it's cheaper. It just doesn't give you the satisfaction of being a good citizen, a productive citizen.
You know, on that point, I'll make a minor one. India, for a long time, has been on the opposite side of this. They import much more than they export. So it's interesting that they're trying to create relationships with other countries so that they can export more, and yet the sentiment in the West and in Europe is to clamp down and not do as much importing as they have done in the past.
Now, India has come out with a rule that you will be happy about. No foreigner can be employed unless you're paying him more than $25,000 a year. And any project that you have, you cannot have more than 1% foreigners on that project. That's the law that just got passed.
In India?
In India.
Wow. Why do you think that is? Because it's not as if we import that many external people to come in and work domestically in India. Clearly, it's the other way around.
It's like everybody wants to keep jobs for their own citizens. And I think we need to look at it that way, too. And I've been screaming about it for quite a few years. We need to start being productive here. We don't need to import everything because it's cheap. And, you know, the biggest money that's sitting on the sideline that needs to come to America is because you know, they're all afraid that President Obama is going to tax them 39%. And they only want to pay 5% so they can bring the money home. There may be some negotiations up there, but all that foreign money sitting on the sideline that belong to the United States of America need to come back.
I'll just make one last point about this whole thing. I read a very interesting statistic, which was, you know, we complain about our economy, we're all poor, there's not enough money to go around. Do you know how much was spent on the ad campaigns for this midterm elections? $4 billion. $4 billion was spent just purely on the ad campaigns, much of which was negative.
And
you think
by
about
the
how
way,
much money was spent on this
all
election?
The money, but that was all the money that was spent locally, created a lot of jobs. There's nothing wrong with that.
I guess you could look at it that way. Switching topics. Take a look at this ad. It was in Time magazine, and it caught my eye. Caught my eye because, you know, 30 years ago, you might have seen this ad exactly reversed. You would have seen a Corolla here saying it was just like this American car, only you got better fuel economy or you got something else. Instead, here we are 30 years later, And the headline reads, "This Chevrolet Cruze is just like a Corolla, but with everything that you want." Right? But, you know, I think this is actually a smart move for the car industry. I was reading some positive news. You know, first positive news on the auto industry front, Ford actually recorded record profits after not making money for a very long time. They were the only auto company that did not accept the bailout.
That's right.
And consequently earned my respect, as I'm sure many other Americans feel the same way. But overall, the auto industry is actually rebounding quite well. In July, J.D. Power reported that North American vehicle production was up 67% year to date, which is a remarkable number given where the country was about a year ago. And that J.D. Power expects a 41% increase in planned launches of new vehicles in the 2011-2012 years. So in other words, the auto industry really did take a hard look at itself, and it's coming out with some new innovative car models to try to win back the American public, which is great. But, you know, a few months ago, we reported that Detroit really was in hard times. People were leaving Detroit because of the economic conditions.
Very true.
Factories were closing.
Yeah. Well,
guess what? White flight, black flight, no matter, Arab Americans are betting big on the Motor City's future. This is a very interesting story about Detroit's unlikely saviors, being the Arab Americans who've moved to Detroit and found tremendous economic opportunity.
There are a tremendous number of Arab Americans that actually live in Michigan.
That's right. In fact, $7.7 billion is the amount in salaries and in earnings produced annually by the Arab Americans in Metro Detroit. And, you know, they're opening up simple businesses.
Yeah.
And they're making a ton of money, and they're proving that even in downtrodden, economically struggling places in the country, you can still succeed, and the American dream is possible.
Folks, houses sell for $15,000 in Detroit. 15.
If you can deal with the cold weather, you know, it's a great place to try to, you know, come back and restart.
No, it's because it really got slammed by the recession and this housing